Okay, awesome. Well,
let's jump in then.
Okay, the official.
Rock and roll.
Do you want to do your cool intro, Majigger?
Freestyle.
You said the stream glitched and then it was back up and running.
All right,
Okay,
cool.
Sweet. Thanks, bro.
Thanks, Ernest.
My intro thingamajigger. All right. Welcome to the Just Life. Gritty, real, and uncensored insights that have you living your best life on your terms, or at least that's what we're striving for. And like anything, the only constant is change. And so we find ourselves in our studio live streaming the podcast, which not even 2 weeks ago was not a thing that we had thought we could do. And big shout out to Ernest and the conversation that him and I had about streamlining my life. And we were looking at what we tend to take on as people up to big things and doing lots of stuff, and how heavy it can get, right? So inside of streamlining my life, live streaming became one of those actions. And so we are truly honoring the gritty, real, and uncensored nature that is the podcast. So those of you that are joining on the live stream, welcome. We always have too much to talk about, so I don't think that'll be an issue. And feel free to contribute, right?
Yeah, please do.
If you're on the Podbean live stream version of it, that's the audio version of it. You can call in there. From what I understand, we've not experienced that yet, but
wow,
whatever you can do, you can at the very least you can send a message and interact with us. We'd love to interact with you. And so that's the intro. How did I do?
Well done, man.
Right,
well done.
cool.
Fantastic.
This is episode 2 of live stream.
Yes.
And I just want to start off by giving a shout out to you guys. Actually, it really does bring me great joy to be with you guys every week. I appreciate each and every one of you, and so just thank you for being gritty, being real, and pushing through and just continuing to show up and do this, because I get a ton of value out of it. Selfishly, I get a ton of value. If we did nothing else other than have these conversations every week and provide a space for us to share the shit we're dealing with, that's exactly why we started the podcast.
Yep.
And I get a ton of value out of it. So I appreciate you guys. And the other thing I want to say about that is that my friend Danielle, shout out to Danielle, because I'm sure she's going to listen. She might not be here right now, but I shared the live stream with her after it was uploaded, and she listened to it, and it had a profound impact on her.
Really?
Yes.
What was the impact?
The impact was, she was like, wow, I just got so much out of what you guys talked about. And I'm like, oh, well, tell me more. She was like what? She goes, I got so much out of what you guys talked about, and I really got to read more. And I go, oh, okay. Well, like, what do you mean? And she said, well, everything that you guys were talking about, like abundance, and everything you were talking about healing, right? And about that spiritual aspect and there was a lot of different things that we spoke about, and a lot of different pieces that she pulled that had an impact. And just really what it did was it accomplished at least my objective, is it got her thinking, got her present to like thinking and being like, how am I living my life? What matters to me? Like that's what we got to do, I think, for me, to get to the bottom of what really matters to us, right? Is like, if you get good segue. If you get caught up in the hysteria, then you're just a reaction machine, and there's no power there.
Pilot in dirt mode, just walking around through life like stuck up in your head. You see them everywhere. Like you can, when you walk, like you were saying, when you walk through the supermarket, you just look at somebody's pupils and you can just see whether or not they're here.
Yeah, the animal, or is it the human?
Right. Either they're here or
down.
they're a million miles away doing some other shit.
Yeah,
and we all tend to be there because it's safer to be there than it is to be present in the moment, but at least that's our perception.
Yeah.
There's a lot to take in and manage and deal with when you're present in the moment, especially when things are, the perception is a bit chaotic, right? You don't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's
work.
Well, it's not even just work.
It can be scary.
And it's work, and it's really, really scary. And so we go to the place where we are safe. Unfortunately, you're no longer in control anymore.
Yeah, because sometimes,
and now you do stupid shit.
The autopilot comes out.
Exactly, because sometimes where you're safe feels like, again, the animal, right? Survival. And when it's just automatic responses. But yeah, so thank you guys. I'm starting to see when we share this and people's feedback, like even with Matt on the podcast last week, like these conversations actually do have an impact on people.
Yeah.
And so it's just really cool to be a part of it.
And I'm really, it's really nice to hear it, because sometimes you are left questioning, is anybody paying attention to this? Like, am I just blowing hot air through a microphone because of my own ego and vanity? Like, the internal rhetoric starts to show up. And then for me, if I look at like all the stuff that I'm involved in, it's like, do you keep doing that, man? Because you keep doing this across the board. And then I have conversations. I sit down with somebody. I get invested in who they are and what they're up to and what they're dealing with, and all of that goes out the window. Like it is a moot point. It's just my own version of going into the safe bunker.
Totally,
right?
dude.
Like recluse, wall up, get that shit, whatever it is, not necessary, streamline.
It's all about
abandoning
in the name
ship,
of trying
you know?
to understand how you show up, though, right? Like being self-aware
Yes.
and realizing this is what I want to look like, but then you get caught in that loop of like, what do I look like to that other person? So you're not who you think you are. You're not who that person thinks you are. You are who you think that person thinks you are.
Yeah, you're living
You're
into
four steps
Yeah, right.
removed
You're
from.
creating this loop of like, this is how I want to show up. Am I showing up like that? I wonder. Now I gotta adjust, and so there's this disparity between.
Well, and you're not actually showing up the way you need to show up.
it. Yeah, because you're present. You're not present. But that's another good point. It actually works in reverse as well. Because I think I know you.
Right.
And so now Devin's going to show up for me every single day the way that I think Devin is.
Right.
And my brain is going to look for evidence to prove that I'm right about how Devin is.
Yeah. And your version of me is different from his version of me.
100%.
Yeah.
Version of me.
100%. And
Speaking of,
go ahead.
Devin, you need to eat that microphone like an ice cream cone.
Nicely done. Great metaphor.
Well
nice
said.
visual.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll get it out of my head.
That's great.
I mean, it said ice cream
I'm used to
cone.
being on that side of things and telling people exactly
right.
that, and so I'm like nervous. I'm like, dude, where do I put this thing? Is that good?
Now you know.
That's good right there.
I'll figure- yeah, that's perfect.
David,
Okay,
you
cool.
set something up. There's two things that are top of mind. Clearly, we're going to talk about Corona. Corona? Am I saying that right? At some point.
Shadow COVID-19.
But you said something that it sounds like a good segue with what Devin just set up there. You were talking about really, the disparity between who you're creating yourself to be and what you're actually doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
And not you specifically.
No,
the
yeah,
royal
I got
you,
it
like
generally.
all of us, right?
Well, I just look at and there are so many conversations that I have with people about their aspirations and where they want to go, or their concerns for what is currently going on, the state of the nation, the status quo, and what's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And then nothing changes. Right? Like that they haven't gotten much closer to that big dream that they say that they want. And they haven't gotten out of the situation they say doesn't work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really connected to how critical it is that we start to take the steps forward, and how many people don't take those steps forward.
And I love that you use the analogy of a step. So, man, because if I had to really look, and maybe it'll emerge in this conversation, like if I had to really look at what it is that had me in the very beginning to actually take that first step and to look inside and look at what it looks like to be responsible and take action and create my life. Guess what? It didn't happen overnight, and it's continuing to not happen overnight, and I'm creating my life. So what is it? What do we got to get present to, and or what stops us from literally looking and going, okay, I want to be over there, and I've got to take the first step?
I know exactly what it is. Well, that would be arrogant of me to say exactly what it is. And I would wager that this is likely the case.
Sure, I'll go with that.
So there is where we're at, and then there is where we want to be, and then there's a delta between the two.
For sure.
And it is fucking substantial. And so we look at the gap, and we look at where we're at, and we don't do anything.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea that for me to get to where I say I want to go, the aspirational, that this is and you don't even know what's involved. You're just seeing the chasm, right? Like
For sure,
you have
yeah.
no context for, again, the steps to take. It's just foggy, dark. It's oblivion. It's completely unknown to you. And so you resign yourself to going, I guess this is good enough. I guess what I've got is fine, because...
Well, take it one step further. It's not that this is just good enough. You start justifying why this is all you're ever going to get.
Totally. And what you deserve if it's something that's actually not working for you. It's like, oh man, well, clearly I'm not capable of crossing that delta, that chasm, because if I was capable, I'd have crossed it already.
Yeah, I'd be there.
Already. So
Right.
clearly
And crossing
I'm
is
not
only
worth it.
reserved for some elite
You're right.
type of human.
Right.
And so we find ourselves sitting, twiddling our thumbs, doing fuck all.
And you know what? There's also a lot of danger. I love that. There's also a lot of danger in, okay, that's it. I'm going to transform my life. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the first step, David.
Oh man,
then
it is risque.
It's risque. Then I take the first step and it looks nothing like that over there. And it looks nothing like I thought it was going to look.
Totally.
Therefore, hey, this isn't working.
Yes,
I knew it wouldn't work.
that's right.
Okay, back I go.
That's right. I better go back to what I'm familiar with, and it kind of, now that I think
It's
about
fine,
it, it kind of
actually.
worked.
It's fine.
And then we justify our inaction or our current actions, and then we find ourselves
Or we get pissed off and resigned.
and we find ourselves unfulfilled in life.
Further to that, you are too afraid to have the conversations with the people around you that you need to have to support you to continue down that journey.
Hands down.
So you're doing it alone.
Totally.
I'll use this as an example. I went and spoke to somebody about starting a podcast for their business. And if anybody understands the world of marketing, connecting with your customers is key. In the day and age when the attention is shifted from this place to this place, that's where you want to be. So I have a deep working practitionership knowledge of how that operates. I share that with somebody, and inside of sharing that with somebody, you can see the light turn on and like, this is great. This is a really great idea, right?
They go like this?
Yeah. And then they go and they talk to somebody who has absolutely no fucking clue,
I love those.
zero knowledge, and they just go on what they think, and they go, oh, podcasts are stupid. Nobody listens to podcasts.
And it usually
And then
shows
he
up
comes
that way.
back, Yeah. And he comes back and he goes, yeah, I talked to some young kids and some friends of mine, and they said podcasts are stupid, so we're not going to go with you. And I'm like, okay, kudos to you,
Dude.
but call me in 6 months to a year when your company tanks.
You know
And
what?
if you want to rebuild.
You know what the metaphor is? The visual that I see, and I'm highly visual. I mean, we're all men. We're all highly visual. Who are we kidding here? But when I think about that, I think about the steps that we're taking, and they are bold, courageous steps, and they are filled with uncertainty and just not knowing what path to take, what direction to take. But we have mustered up enough courage and bravery to take a number of steps, and we feel like we're getting some momentum. This is, you know what? This makes sense. I kind of can see where I'm going, and I'm liking the direction that I'm going. It's not like the scary dark path. It's got sun and there's birds and deer and right. It's like, oh, okay,
Sounds nice.
it's kind of cool.
Didn't look like the Disney Evil Forest.
And then you come across some I don't know, gangly golem type guy, and he's like, don't do the podcasts. Don't keep walking this road. It'll be your demise, or like whatever. And
People
so
are going to judge you. You're going to look stupid.
Yeah.
Dude.
yeah,
I swear to God, I have the same thing. You can relate that to anything. I have the same thing in my business life. People will
Right.
come back and be like, hey, you know what? I loved what you had to say. And, I talked to my brother-in-law. He used to be in the insurance industry 25 years ago. And he told me that what you said is a bad idea. So I don't think I'm going to do it.
oh
Yeah.
man.
I'm like, oh, no, that's cool.
The
Awesome.
board of
Good luck with
directors,
that.
the board of directors that currently reside in our life, not voted in by any measure or inclusion of our choice. They just happen to be there.
Just the people
And they-
that showed up in your life. And you're
they
like, you're
assume
cool
the
enough to
seats.
stick around.
That's right. And they're now saying, okay, well, we got to talk about this direction that you're going through, because from my perspective and my infinite wisdom and my inability to take action, I don't think that's a good idea.
Sorry, hold
Go
on a
ahead.
sec. You raise a really good point. Okay, so think about this for a second. Unconsciously, Okay. I'm training myself. We're all training ourselves. By the way, I just want to preface this with everything that we're saying on this podcast, by the way, is not right.
It's not the truth.
It's not the truth. It's not even real. What we're talking about is our interpretation of our own experience navigating through these unknown waters. Caveat. Right? Yeah. So what I do now that
take the plunge.
Right? I'm training myself to get around people who make me uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is who will grow me, right? So now it's starting to happen unconsciously. I actually repel people who will hold me down, and I like attract people who will lift me up, okay? And is it possible that if I'm going to step into something new, if I'm not sure about something, even if it's a financial strategy, a marketing strategy, a workout program, is it possible that I might ask the people who actually will make me right and justify my thinking?
You totally will.
But we don't do that, do we?
No, we do.
We do that.
Think about it.
I don't want to do Devin's. Oh, I don't know about Devin's marketing plan. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask David, because I know David's a bitter fuck.
But you're looking for people to confirm your belief.
That's right.
And inside of our little kind of circle of people, we're all trying to elevate each other. So we kind of operate a little bit different. But in a different social circle, if you ask me about some shit and I tell you something that's a little bit different than what you believe, you go ask David, but he confirms your beliefs.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what I say.
Totally.
That's what he's pointing to.
Exactly what I'm saying. You're right. We come to this place because I know I won't get away with being small in here.
Right.
I know that. Yeah. Right. So exactly what you're talking about is I'm unconsciously looking for people to justify my always thinking.
Yes. Yes.
And if you want to improve yourself, the only way that occurs is if you look for people who actually don't have any bias in whether or not you succeed or fail.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and
third-party coaching.
It's less about looking for people, and again, coming right back full circle. Excuse me.
Uh-oh.
To
sorry, I had to.
That was great.
Oh man, that was good.
That's perfect because we will get back to that later.
Yeah. It's less about
foreshadowing.
It's less about finding the people, because here's another vice is. Oh yeah, no. I talked to some people and I couldn't get any response, or they were busy, or I didn't understand what they said, or whatever the story is that now justifies the reality that you already know what steps to take.
Yeah,
and now it's another crutch.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? If I had a coach,
yeah,
I would totally make it. Fuck that shit. If you had a coach and you're not ready, there's nothing that coach is going to be able to do for you. Nothing. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to take those steps.
You got to torch your own island before you can swim to the new one.
Yeah, and you got to be willing to step into the unknown on your own terms with your own intention and objectives to start to figure out and experience the contrast that is, nope, not that. Oh, that's interesting. Nope, not that. There's no coach, there's no person on this planet who can do that for you.
Not to be a cliche, but exactly what you're talking about, man. You got to take the step, and when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Literally, that is true. Man.
Absolutely.
If you just sit there, again, like you said, if I'm not willing to do the fucking work, there's nothing that Jason Lowe can help me do in my business to improve. Nothing.
No. Even if he wants to.
100%. If I don't go, because again, what you said, I literally got a backtrack of my life, the path in the last 3 or 4 years. It's like, oh, I made the decision. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I started down that path. All of a sudden I met this guy. He helped me. He supported me. And then this happened and that happened. And then he introduced me to that guy, right? Like,
and you were still taking your own action.
And I was still taking my own action.
All inside of that.
And totally uncomfortable and not knowing what I was doing.
Well, and before you embarked on that journey, how present were you to the conversations that you were having in your head with people that don't even exist? Sometimes myself, I will think about doing something or trying to achieve something, and I don't know, my dad will pop up in my head, and then I'll have a conversation with my dad, and it won't go the way that I want. You know what I mean? He'll tell me some shit about it in my own head.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't even reality. This is just conversations I'm having.
They're good conversations
in my mind, but sometimes they're great conversations. But here's the thing. A lot of times, because we're the ones in control of the direction of that, we end up confirming our own bias and then figuring out a way to rationalize and justify why we shouldn't do that thing.
How old are you?
33.
Do you remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books? No, you don't.
Yes, actually, I do, but I was really
yeah,
young.
okay. No, he doesn't.
Hell
have
yeah.
that.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I grew up really
That's-
poor, so we
that's-
didn't read books a lot.
It was like you
Oh, hell
like
yeah.
read a
Choose
bit
Your
of it, and it
Adventure
would
was
tell you
like-
to go to a certain page, right?
There,
And
yeah,
keep
there would
reading.
be
Okay.
an opportunity, and I love these books when I was younger. Now, what you're pointing to is how you cheat the system.
Mm-hmm.
So how I would sometimes choose my own adventure is I would
Go to the back of the book.
well, not even that. I would hold my mark where I was and plot a path because I wasn't sure if that's
Go
the
check
path,
out option
and
one
I would go
and two.
check it out.
Yeah.
And then it'd be like, oh no, shit, I'm in a bad spot right now. I'm reverting back and
Gotta go
trying it again, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Those
Which
conversations.
is an intelligent habit, though.
Why? Okay, I'll take that.
No, but really it is, because look at all the other options in your life now, like your life decisions. When you get to that fork in the road, you're like, shit,
It's
let
also
me play this out both ways and see which one's going to get me where I need to go.
that's fair. I can't really say anything against that. It can be paralyzing though.
Right. Analysis paralysis can really fuck
And
that
I think that's
process
kind
up.
of what I was pointing to in this narrative. So you've got the choose your own adventures going on in your mind, and so you're going down one path. But then, meanwhile, there's internal dialogue like, yeah, but you better have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Don't invest too much time here because you're probably going to fuck it up anyways, and it's not a really good idea. And they're like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going back.
And that totally exactly impacts commitment, right?
I always
yeah.
had this idea in the back of my head that there is no fucking plan B. You plan A the whole time. Anytime
Wow,
you divert
that's
your
a
attention
superpower, man.
from but anytime you divert your attention from plan A to plan B, you're never gonna fucking reach plan A.
Yeah.
You're
You're not
constantly like,
vested.
but I'll do this. But I'll do this. But I'll do this. So for me, I fucking stayed focused 110% on plan A, in spite of everybody around me telling me you're an idiot.
Did that turn off?
It did. It said video is stopped recording.
Oh, this button here is it blinking red now? Yep. Sweet.
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 No, I totally get what you're saying, man. And that actually, I think all of us are actually either you're experiencing that now, actually, and I'm experiencing that now.
Well, and
where-
if it wasn't for my dedication to that absolute dedication to that plan A, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And here's why. The whole time in plan A, I was like, all I need to do is this so I can do that. This so I can do that. This so I can do that. And then I get to this place where it's kind of plateaued in my life. I'm like, fuck. I'm nowhere near the level Drake is, and I wish I was there. And then I realized, oh shit, I'm missing these pieces. Cool, but how do I get those pieces? I lean back on the transferable skills that I created here. Because guess what? Now I'm an audio engineer, accidentally. Now I'm a video technician, accidentally. Right? Now I'm a really incredible copywriter, accidentally. Now I'm a marketer, accidentally. Now I'm a business coach, accidentally.
You know what that's
Because
pointing?
of my plan A.
You know what that's pointing to, and this is interesting. So there was
consequences.
there was an ignorance, an ignorant bliss that is your
Right.
life, right?
Yeah.
Devin Jones, obsessed with objective A,
Mhm.
blindly following forward, and just steamrolling through whatever it was, not knowing what it was, but going through it
Right.
because I had to go to A. This is pointing to the other problem with, well, it doesn't work very well. And you acquired a bunch of skills, which is great. Most people, I don't think, actually can say that. What would have happened if you actually were more aware of and mindful of the planning moving forward and the awareness of what you were acquiring, because you knew that those were the things that you needed to acquire as you were along your way on your journey?
So to that, listen, it wasn't like it was easy. It
I'm
wasn't
not
a
saying
walk
it
in the
was.
park. It was fucking hard, and it was scary because all around me, the most important and beloved people around me are like, you're an idiot, don't do this. Stop wasting your
That's
life.
always fun.
Go do this, go do that. And all in good,
for
with
love.
good measure. They really did want me not to fail. Some people have tried things and failed, and they've experienced pain because of it. And to me, the failure only
God
occurred
forbid.
because they stopped pursuing the thing that they wanted. But to them, it confirmed that it's impossible. You must be magical in order to achieve that thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I never allowed that belief to become my
Yeah, you
own.
kept on.
And I kept going.
trucking on.
And Steve Jobs put it the most eloquently. You don't know where or why you're there until you look back and you connect the dots. So I can look back and connect the dots and go, holy shit, I built 14 brands for other musicians before I got to this place. I've built businesses from the ground up and helped people get paid without knowing that was what I was creating. So now that I'm in this place, that my objective is still to become as famous as Drake is. That is still unequivocally my objective. But I realized that taking pictures for real estate agents in an economy where real estate is shit isn't getting fucking paid. Right? So I'm not an idiot either. I'm not going to stay doing something that isn't working. I need to figure out other means to. I tried getting a job, but I'm otherwise unemployable. I seem to know more than most of the people trying to employ me. And that's not by me being arrogant. That's facts. Like, in an interview, the guy said, listen, you should be doing this yourself. I would not hire you. I can't pay you $15 an hour to do what I need you to do. You need to be paid $100 an hour. That was him, not me. I didn't make that up. So pursuing that plan A absolutely has given me all these other things. So I hear people talk about right now when I meet them, they're like, oh yeah, I got this job and I make $20 an hour and whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, you're living on $20 an hour? How the fuck are you doing that? I don't touch shit for less than $75 an hour.
Humans are incredibly adaptable.
Accidentally. I never thought I was going to go become this person that does these things. And it's been a long, hard journey to get to where I am and to put myself into a position to be confident even enough to get work. But
well, and consider your $75 an hour is probably less than you think, given all the variables that we don't consider that impact that piece of meal that comes through the door.
I think that's really great, man. And there's a lot of relatables there for me, for sure. But something I want to share, I want to just circle back to when you were talking about the conversations you have in your head with your dad, for example.
Right.
Another, something that's scarier and more limiting, or maybe holds you in a place, is those conversations that come from people that are not your dad. They come from early programming. They come from other people who are influencers in your life, and you're now not present to whose voice that is that you're listening to, and you think that's your own thoughts.
Yeah, that's like Brian and Sam and Justin Shire and like all the kids I grew up with.
Whoever
told me it was impossible.
Your guidance counselor that told you were a dummy when you were 18.
Yeah,
and now I come out all the time and say that I'm a dummy.
Right.
And I think that that's me. Right. So that's the thing that can be even more paralyzing, is if you're not paying attention to, wait a minute, where the fuck did that thought come from? Who is that? That's not real. That's just a thought in my head, right? And then being able to push past that.
So if we were to come back now full circle with this idea that there is inaction, there is always inaction present between where we're at and where we want to go, what makes the difference then? What steps have you taken at the very beginning, and the steps that you're taking now more intentionally, not just like fucking having at her, that you see are the real difference makers, and that's anybody could do?
If a bear showed up right now in this room, a bear just walked into this room,
that would be crazy.
It would be fucked up and scary. And we would all, every single man in this room, in spite of our strength, would all experience fear.
No, extreme.
What do you do in the face of that fear? That's what defines you. When that fear occurs, every single human being experiences it. Some people choose to play dead. Some people choose to run away. Some people choose to fight. And it's that choice. That's what defines you. That's what creates who you are. So replace that bear with opportunity. If somebody walked in this room right now going, my business is failing, I need help, I could be afraid to speak up because I think you know more than I do. And I think you know more than I do. And I think he knows more than I do. So I could be afraid to speak up. Or I could be like, hey, Richard, I think I might be able to help. So I was afraid.
There's some courage there.
But I fought. Instead of running away, instead of playing dead, I fought.
Yeah, courage is action in the presence of fear. And I just want to give my take on what you just said, because what I heard you say was, what are some things that you can do or that you've done to shift that occurring? So here's what happens is we do the same things day after day after day. We have the same thoughts, we experience the same feelings, which triggers the same actions, so on and so forth. And it feels like you're in a loop and your life is never going to change. And the opportunity is to choose to take a different action. And so to boil it down right down to actual realness is that I was working in a trade, had a couple kids, was fucking going to work every day. My life was actually amazing. I was like, holy fuck, I get a paycheck on a regular basis. I never experienced that my entire life. My parents never got a fucking paycheck. This is really awesome. I can pay my bills. Da, da, da. Life is good. And then, like, for some reason, I air quote wanted more. Like, I want to make a difference in the world. I want to grow. I want to build. And I never read a book by choice, cover to cover, in my entire life until I was 25 years old. And that was the first action that I took that completely, it was like the Big Bang, right? There was a starting point, and
then
it
just happened.
Yeah. So when things started to, so I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and what it did was, it opened me up to some ideas about money, but it opened me up to the possibility that I could learn, develop, and grow. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then baby steps, started doing different things, started going to networking events and getting around people I never normally would be around, and personal development and so on.
You know what else I hear is you allowed the natural propensity for curiosity to find its way through the process, not to get it right, not to have the answer, not to be so certain that this is the direction that I need to take, but you didn't know it at the time, but you just allowed curiosity to take form. And human beings, I mean, this is the power of the human being, is we are so curious. Mm-hmm. This is what has us living in the modern world that we live in, right? And so, as another actionable step that I hear, to give yourself more space to be curious about what you don't know about, or something that you had thought about, and now you've got all the resources at your fingertips to dip your toe in and start learning and growing, expanding.
How did you deal with the judgment?
The judgment of
the people around you. Like when you start reading self-help books.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look at this fucking loser reading self-help books. Something's wrong with him.
I was in a trade, so I was in a hotbed for criticism. Yeah. Like a lot of very broken and insecure men. God bless you guys. And it's just true. And so, when you get met with a lot of criticism, and I was doing some things that failed miserably at that time. And you got to be really careful because they were right. And I could, I mean, right, air quote, right. I was just learning and growing. Like, for example, I joined a bunch of MLMs 15 years ago, 10 years ago or whatever. And they were like, oh my God.
The scheme guy, just like
me. A lot of us did that, right? Well, no, it wasn't the scheme guy. I was like, okay, this is a business thing. Like, these guys said this is a good idea. I don't know anything about business. Oh, let's try this, right? Like, and I thought, and they're telling you all.
There was an innocence.
For the next
innocence.
Thing.
Yeah, I bought into the hype of like, I could actually be free doing this and whatever, or reading books and different things. And you're right. Guys would be like, what the fuck are you doing? Especially when I went contracting. And then when I got into insurance, I had all that stuff in the background. And at first, to answer your question, what I did was I got really fucking angry and defensive and tried to prove that I was right. And I was like, fuck you guys. And I got mad. Right. And then I would try to convince people that no, it is right. You got to look at, like this. And it's always trying to justify or prove and that was just part of my development. It was the small me. I didn't know it at the time. You had to
go through that.
I had to go through it because I didn't know it at the time. But again, like you said, looking back, I can now look back and go, oh, that revealed something about myself.
Well, right? About inside my insecurities of all the times of you getting convinced of things, it actually showed you the reality of it, and then it gave you the tools to now help communicate that to other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Does that fit?
Like, I can't really. And here's the thing: is there's something to look at for me is. What is it that drove the continuous willingness to keep going? Mm-hmm. What is that?
Can I ask you something? Are you still friends with those people back then?
I'm friends. I'm connected. Like, I'm friends with a few of the guys. Like, I mean, there's some guys that I could like. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, some of these guys have grown themselves. Like, one of my friends, Josh. Shout out to Josh. He never really would be a person that I would pull out of a line that said anything bad or this is stupid or what are you doing.
He had his own natural curiosity.
Yeah, he's just an example of a guy that I know that has grown, and there's other people that have grown too. But there are many guys that are stuck in that kind of that trap, and I'm not connected to them because
I've walked in entire social circles because of just the toxicity of the nature of this person, and then how these people were influenced by that person, and in spite of all of the conversations that we had, just that fucking negativity that little social circle was breeding was just like, I can't do this anymore. I got to go.
You know what, man? It's not to say that you wouldn't have got there on your own or I wouldn't have got there on my own, but part of it is always, again, like the people that are around you, right? Like I'm working this job and every single day, like I did Cross Iron Mills for like 3 years. It was amazing. I had a great crew there. I was there for a long time. It was awesome. But then, you know, things change, right? So I wind up downtown doing sprinklers. I'm on the 23rd floor. It's fucking minus 21 up there. You're trying to fucking tighten beam clamps. And everybody around you is fuck this, fuck that, life sucks, blah, right? Nothing's working, nothing's right, everyone's cranky, you know, and it's just like, and I just started to think, I'm like, man, like this
isn't it.
Like, this isn't where I want to be. Yeah. Like this is not where I want to be. And just to finish my point, I came home and I remember one specific conversation my wife had. She's like, hey, you need to make a change because you're miserable and I don't like seeing you like this. Yeah. Like you're bringing this home with you. And I was like, oh, like, I mean, shout out to her for even saying that to me.
Yeah, good for her for recognizing that in you. Yeah.
And it just, you know what that did is it gave me a bit of permission. It made it okay. Because I thought I just got to go to work and fucking feed my family and I got to do this stuff and I'm stuck here. I got to fucking do this. I was attached to the paycheck, right? And that made it okay for me to go and look.
Here's the thing. Nobody's stuck. That's a construct. It's made up.
Choice.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, totally.
Because deep down, there is something that's telling us we're on point or we're not. How present we are, how willing we are to listen to it. Your wife was paying attention to it, saw the reflection of it, and was courageous enough to say, you got to do something different because this doesn't work. Unfortunately, we are not willing to call it out, and so we just tolerate it. And in the tolerating, it starts to become no longer a choice because this is just how it goes. But we always have choice.
Well,
we don't get stuck.
Do you think that perhaps in your mind, whether you knew it or not at the time, your wife giving you permission kind of acted as the gatekeeper to your curiosity?
Oh, for sure. For sure, man. Like I had ideas, I had things I wanted to try, and I never really brought it up to her, actually.
And you don't want to let her down, obviously.
I don't want to let her down. And if I come home and tell her that I'm going to quit the sprinkler job that gives me the guaranteed paycheck and I want to go try contracting because I read it in a book, she might think I'm a fucking moron or something, right? And she basically said, hey, like, what are you going to do? You got to do something different. And I was like, oh. Then I started doing some research. I started looking
validated what you were already thinking about.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe that's invisible. Maybe that comes from a way of being. Maybe that comes from your energy, who you are. Maybe I influenced her thoughts. I have no idea. And I don't care.
Well, get that you probably did because she probably saw you reading books and she's like, I wonder. But in her own uncertainty of like bravely inquiring about it, looking into it, and we do this subtle like backdoor passive aggressive moves, right? They're strategic. They're always strategic. She likely saw you reading those books and she's like, yeah, I got to say something. Oh, I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
like, I don't want to think that he's a failure. Like whatever the stories are that we start to rattle through our head to justify not standing boldly, courageously for another human being. That's what stops change.
To her, you showed up as fully capable of doing that thing.
Yes. In
spite of your own self thinking you were incapable.
It's fascinating that you should say that because I'm just right now. You guys get me all reflective. Like the last 10 years, like because I'm at a chasm. I'm at a place right now where I can see that. Like I feel like the amount of momentum that's being created for me in my life right now is like the pendulum is still on the way up. Like it hasn't even started the downswing.
Yeah, it's cranking.
Yet. Yeah, it's cranking, and like that's really what I feel like a tidal wave of possibility. And if if I could pull one person out, now don't get me wrong, there's been tons of people who had my back and supported me and whatever, but if I could pull one person out, the forever constant in the last 10 years as I've developed myself and my business and all that has always been my wife.
Mm-hmm.
She is relentlessly believed in me way more than I believe in myself. And that's constantly what she'd say to me. Hey, guess what? You're not quitting. You can do this.
Right.
And I'm like,
she became the voice you needed to hear.
Totally, man.
Such a blessing to have a person like that in your life. Yes. And if you don't have a person like that in your life,
go find one.
It's time to go find one. That might be your scary first step. That might be your bear.
Yeah.
Is that the people around you are just shitting on you and you're too afraid and they made you so incapable of meeting new people that you're paralyzed now, you're stuck there. So you need to you need to run away from that bear. Like, it's fine to run away from that bear.
Totally.
Right? It's what you do, and how is it going to make you better because of that choice, that action? Maybe right now you're playing dead and it's safe. Right? It's safe to play dead with that bear.
He's eating David right now. I think I'm safe. I'm just playing dead in the corner.
Yeah, and metaphorically, David is your motivation. It's your potential.
I can hear your screams and the bones crunching. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this.
So I want to talk a little bit about the untalkable. How are we doing for time?
We are at 11:16 a.m.
Oh shit! I gotta
nice. So we might.
Man, that was the fastest 45 minutes.
Yeah,
of my
that's
life.
insane.
It usually goes that way. And nobody joined us, eh?
Well, we had TT join us. We had a couple of people join on Podbeam. So a shout out to those guys that are going to be listening afterwards to this. We had John Media Stream. We had Smit. We had Grillit and TT.
Oh, so there's a few that joined.
They
All
checked in.
cool.
We got a double thumbs up from TT.
Hopefully,
Thank
Oh,
you.
what up, bro? TT.
hopefully it came out really good, clear. That's my biggest concern right now. Is we're like,
Yeah, we'll find out.
yeah, totally. So you got a hard stop at 11:30, right?
Well, I just checked in with the wife here, and yeah, I mean, if we go a couple minutes over, because I think we definitely have
yeah, but
to.
that's not how it goes, bro. We don't go a couple minutes over.
that's fair.
If we go a couple
never
minutes,
happens.
it's
That's if it's a couple minutes,
Oh,
it's
look,
like
it's 3 o'clock.
45 minutes.
That's
yeah,
fair.
It's
yeah,
fucking 1
exactly.
o'clock, and we're like, we're starving. Should we eat food?
Well, come on, man. We gotta observe the humanity in this whole situation that we're all literally globally dealing with.
So let's
Collectively,
let's
we've
put a
been
timer
embraced.
on it, and I need you to moderate this now, Chris.
Sounds good.
Okay, because otherwise we're going to go on our soapboxes and it's going to be a shit show. Which I love shit shows, but we don't have time for a shit show right
Fair
now.
enough.
sounds good.
So inside of 15 minutes,
And by the way, I just want to
Let's
point
talk-
out, thank you for just being straight with that. Because by the way, most of you don't have people in your life who will just fucking tell you the truth,
totally. That's also what doesn't work in your life.
Facts.
right? And yeah. Anyway, I could go on a tangent about that, but yeah,
Okay.
just pointing that out.
So the untalkable / the hot topic of this time in 2020 that we're living through with this pandemic that has been now named COVID-19.
Yes.
COVID-19 is the bear, and the world is now having to.
And again, another preface. I just want to preface that I think you guys we're welcome to share. I think I speak for everybody in the room. Before we share what our thoughts on this whole thing, we have extreme, deep compassion for everybody who's suffering and actually been
Hands
affected
down.
by this and dealing with it.
I'm viscerally impacted every
Yeah.
time I read about it.
I understand that people are suffering, and this thing is happening. And
Yeah. Well, I've been, I'm starting. I'm
Yeah, sure.
reading yesterday and the day before, just reading some of the stuff that's being posted, right? The stuff that's going on in Europe. Airlines, they're locking down, borders are locking down. This is no longer a Wuhan situation that was way over there, out of your reach, not really impacting you, not kind of, sort of, but not really. And that's kind of how it was for me. It's like at our doorstep, and the ripple effect is it has a magnitude that some liken it to the equivalent of like a Great Depression. Like that,
Yeah.
that is the magnitude that we're grappling with right now. And it's not about the virus.
because it has very little to do with
The-
it. But
the-
isn't that interesting?
The virus is in its own right a thing to deal with and manage, hands down, and hands like props to and kudos to those people who are at our hospitals and like they're
The
calling
front lines.
they're calling people out of retirement to support the front lines, and I can't even imagine what that is like. And
And shout out to some of the businesses and different people who have organizations that have completely halted to look, we're dealing with an unknown thing here.
Completely
We don't know
unknown.
how to deal with this. So it's like, oh, should we cancel the NBA season? Well, let's fucking try that, right? Like people are stepping up and going, we're just going to go extreme and fucking do this. And honestly,
And
I
it's
mean,
having
Better
a
safe than
ripple
sorry
effect.
situation.
well, Man.
So
By
let's
the way,
talk about the ripple effect of that.
I want to just let you know that my wife just told me her GPS location, and we have approximately 25 minutes, so we're solid.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of ripple effect, and I again, like you said, yeah, the virus itself is something to deal with, and this is just from what I understand. I'm not a doctor. I spoke to my doctor. From what I understand, that the likelihood of a healthy child, a healthy Canadian male, female, from the ages of whatever, 20 to 50, the likelihood of them dying from this illness, this virus, is highly unlikely.
Yes.
It's highly unlikely. So that's the number one thing to look at. Like, because I first got caught up in going, oh, I wasn't really getting too worried about it because I just because I'm a conspiracy theorist, I have it that most of the stuff's fucking bullshit anyway. So I was hearing about all the stats and I'm going, okay, fair enough. But then I started to think, okay, well, wait a minute. Like, maybe I should look a little bit who's actually getting affected by this. Yeah. And there's been people who have actually had the virus and shared what their experience was like, and they've gotten through it.
Yes.
So that's the number one thing where I look and go, okay, I'm going to be fine.
There's a lot of anecdotal evidence, people's stories of what's happening or what has happened, and nobody's actually looking at the real documentation. And the fact that
nobody can.
The coronavirus is just a classification of viruses. And inside of that classification of viruses, the coronavirus is the one that affects the respiratory system. The one that affects the respiratory system is the fucking common cold. They just have a name for this one because they've classified it. And if I'm not mistaken, and this is a little bit on the edge of conspiracy theorists, it was an engineered cold that broke out. So it being the common cold, people die of the common cold every day.
And
so it's the sensationalization of the news has perpetuated
the
this
media's
tsunami. Because remember, the media, how do they operate, guys? They need your attention so they can advertise. That's how they make money.
Yeah, it's just true.
So if it bleeds, it leads. Whatever.
Do you think the sponsors were toilet paper manufacturers?
Yeah, toilet paper, Lysol. Here's the thing.
Just keep that as the frame for this entire conversation everywhere.
Exactly. It's what you're talking about right now is, okay, I have whatever, name a flu. Okay, I have a flu. But already that's been around for 150 years and a couple million people have had it and people have died from it, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Well, now there's a new strand with a new name. Oh, we can point out that there's a new strand with a new name, and you have this particular version. Yeah, you have this particular version of that thing, and of course, it's probably so easy to spread something. It's just a different version of something we've already dealt with. There's already been older people with ailments, people unfortunately in third world countries and whatnot that have died that are continuously dying from a fucking mosquito bite. But we're
still die of malaria. We have vaccines for that shit. We're talking about a common cold.
Exactly. And so what
frustrating.
What I wanted to point out with this whole thing, the ripple effect. To your point, there's the virus and there's that to deal with. I don't want to get the virus. I don't want the fucking flu either. I don't want to get sick. And I'm not concerned about it at all. What I'm concerned about is the hysteria. And what I'm concerned about is the animal human who fucking freaks out when this shit happens and they go and buy 47 fucking containers of paper towel or whatever. And the shelves are empty and everyone looks at that and goes, oh my God. Dude, guess what? Those shelves are going to get filled up again. Guess what? Like, it's the humans that are making this thing this massive concern. And I'll be totally straight with you. I actually think this is a good thing. I actually think this is a positive thing.
Showing us how we are as a species.
Yes. And I actually think if we pulled to your guys' point about like, oh, we have a choice. Everyone's like, oh, we can't shut down the world for 2 weeks. Guess what? We fucking can. We can.
We can and will and do.
And
like,
that's
have
the
you
thing.
been out on the roads lately?
So you hold on one second. Okay. We don't know what's going to happen if everybody just fucking stayed home for 2 weeks.
No, we have no idea.
I bet you it would just like create so much energy and so much like recharge and so much restart
and determination
and get people present to what actually fucking matters. When's the last time you were grounded and forced to hang out with your family and think about what matters in your life for 2 fucking weeks straight?
That is
Get out of your head and into
so
the real
well
world.
said. Think about what you've done.
Yeah. You go home. You leave that office.
Time out.
Go ahead,
Literally.
Chris. Sorry.
So a couple things inside of that. One, I found this post. It's very on topic because this is a couple different ways that you can view the coronavirus, different lenses that you can see it through, and I'll get to that in just a sec because I wanted to speak specifically to what you what seems to be a thread that this conversation that we've had today has had, and that is the thread of permission. So, we were talking about when you were sharing about, having permission to change your path in life and your permission to explore different things and learn and grow and these types of things. Well, now this virus is coming along and it's giving the global consciousness or people in the world, the global community, permission to stop.
Yeah, dude. Well
and
said.
Do something else.
It's powerful.
Yeah, man.
At that context, at that level,
Yeah.
of energy and possibility. Holy shit, man.
The way that you said that, because think about it, we've probably said this in the podcast. I've argued and said, hey, what would happen if everybody just didn't go to work for a week? Or what if happened if everybody stopped buying gas for a week? But what you're saying, we can't do that.
Even the pollution in China, because they shut down there.
Yeah.
China. Who said that? Wasn't that you?
It was That was from NASA.
China, the satellite imagery of the
from the International Space Station. They measure global pollution levels. They have cameras for that.
Okay, so check this out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry, did you finish your point?
No, there was one other thing that we're going to go on with that. So this particular post that I came across, this was on Instagram. They have this, again, this is more spiritual context or a couple different lenses that you could view this through. And I have my own thoughts about what this particular or what types of we'll call it energies or consciousnesses are more susceptible to this particular illness. And I'll get into that in a moment if we have time. But this particular thing, so one lens, if we're going to call it a 3-dimensional lens, they say that there's a mass virus spreading to the masses, and we must do everything that we can to prevent ourselves and to protect ourselves from contracting the virus, which puts our consciousness into a state of prevention. We start to ask ourselves, how can we prevent this? In air quotes. Many of us have been in preventative medicine. We're finally going to antibacterial hand sanitizer, but that has chemicals in it. So we start to wake up to our contaminants and choose kind of water that is a 2.5 pH that kills 99% of bacteria. So this is actually looking at this through a lens of water. They say a 4D lens. This virus is fake and is a distraction. This is a global cover-up to keep the population distracted from a global operation behind closed doors. That's primary goal is to end the cabal, in air quotes, expose the deep state, eliminate human trafficking, corruption, criminal activity, malevolent beings from the planet, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, and so this one goes down the rabbit hole. I'm just speed reading ahead because this one's going really far down the rabbit hole, which we may not need to go into at this particular time. I'll share that. And then they were talking about like a 5D lens, and this one I find is very interesting from an energetic standpoint. And it says we're going through a water rebirth. A flood of love is coming in to activate our auric bodies. Corona means crown. So this is the other interesting thing that's going on. A lot of people are keying into this from a spiritual context. Corona literally is meaning the crown. So what they're showing there is that we're activating our own individual sovereignty. So we're starting to exercise our power of choice. We're starting to exercise the power of saying like, yo, this is just what's going on for us. Like, no, I'm going to choose to do things differently. I am a sovereign human being.
Yeah. Like that.
And I don't remember, this is slightly off topic. However, I don't remember what we were talking about that was saying this must have been last week. We are less afraid now of money and power than ever. As a global society, we're less afraid of money and power. Those things don't matter the same way that they mattered 10 years ago. They don't matter the same way that they mattered 15 years ago. They don't matter the same way that they mattered when I was a kid.
This is the era of enlightenment, where remember we had the revolution, like the industrial revolution, we had the technological revolution, and now we're having the revolution of enlightenment. Like our minds collectively as a human species are elevating.
So just to continue this, they say corona means crown. It's an aura of plasma around the sun. Your aura is gold, and it represents the fourth phase of water, which is plasma. Blah 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 blah. Crowning is a term used when a baby spirals down the birth canal. So it's like literally what they're talking about is like we're rebirthing ourselves. Like our entire mass consciousness is going through the birth canal again.
Big enema.
Yeah. Okay, so
I mean, that's probably completely
it's the other enema, like the birth enema, not the But that's kind of I'll send this to you guys, and if we need to, we can link it in the description.
You were talking about permission being a thing here. What I'm hearing from what you're saying really is, again, it's all about how you think. It's all about how you think.
Context is king. Content is queen.
It's all about how you think, man. And so I know that we all have a lot to share, but the thing that I was talking to my kids about is observing people. Man, we went to the Costco the other day and there was a fucking lineup to get into the Costco before it opened. And literally these people ran to the fucking, I don't know what it is about the toilet paper. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but the point is the traffic was I could see the franticness in the traffic. We get to the thing, there's all these people lined up. Some people are making a big joke out of it, and some people are like legit concerned. I got to get my fucking shit. Okay, so we go inside, and that was the energy. I literally saw some people are like hurrying up walking, some people are running, some people are like doing this, they're like just looking back and forth trying to figure out what do I got to get, right? And I'm just like, wow. And I'm like,
I just went and did regular groceries yesterday. I don't know about anybody else, but I needed celery and carrots and shit.
I did get more.
I didn't even get canned goods. Like,
I did get more stuff. And the only reason I doubled up on my groceries, I got reasonable things. I didn't get a fucking zillion canned goods. I don't think we're going to go into a nuclear winter. I see it's possible, and the signs are pointing to self quarantine.
Right.
I actually think I'm actually looking forward to it. I know that a lot of people will suffer from self quarantine, and a lot of people are really concerned about their finances, and they're concerned about all these other things. But again, it's an opportunity for you to look at what's fucking running you.
Yes.
You're afraid that you're not going to get paid. Why? Right. What's going to happen? Why are you going to work then? You're going to work just to get a fucking paycheck? Like, so I'm just saying, like, just...
And that comes back to the global consciousness reshifting our focus into what's actually important.
Consider the things that you think you need, and the things that are important are not what you need and are not what's important. So now you get to think and reflect on it. Yeah, and get fucking present, man.
There was this book that I read. It's called Trust Me, I'm Lying. Ryan Holiday. He's a genius.
Trust Me, I'm Lying.
Trust Me, I'm Lying. It's great. It's a great book. If you haven't read it. It's all about the confessions of a professional media manipulator. That was his job, to manipulate the media. And so it starts with, here's the tiers. There's an idea. Whatever that idea is. That idea has to sell this thing. That's always the forefront. That they're selling something. How do we get the masses to talk about it? Donald Trump is a key media manipulator because he just says whatever the fuck he can to get on media. And believe it or not, half the country still believed in him enough to vote for him. I don't know what the numbers were. I'm sure it was all skewed. And again, conspiracy theories aside, let's just go with half the country still thinks he's a smart guy.
Yep.
Look at how much money he makes, right? So brilliant. So now I'm looking at this from a what are they selling perspective when you see the coronavirus is now the thing that everybody's talking about. So I had two levels, and I'm going to start with the top level, and then I'm going to work my way down. So the top level is, let's just say, the government over the last 10 years, because zombies have been a big thing, the government does have a zombie plan. Like, they do. It's documented. It's out there. You can go and check it out if you want. Just look up the government zombie plan. They have to have this plan because... it's just like anything else. If there was an invasion from China, they came over here and they started shooting everybody, they got to have a plan. Mm-hmm. So every division of the government has a plan for something that's happening. So the zombie apocalypse is one of the plans. Let's just say they wanted to test how would we react if a virus came out. But they can't use a real-life virus. So they got to use an innocuous one that is traceable. So they engineer this virus, and there's patents on this virus, that it was a man-made virus. And then they release it, and they release it in a high density population area, and then see what happens. Mm-hmm. And now the media gets a hold of it. The different government officials get a hold of it, and now there's a quarantine, and there's all these things. So this is an exit. Like
but that's not possible,
right? It's like a fire drill for what would happen if a virus. Now, could that be possible? And there's always going to be casualties, right? It's not like it used to be, back in the MK Ultra days when they were just giving people acid and be like, what would happen if we gave people acid and sent them off to war? But they have to do it in a way that's still publicly or socially acceptable. They need to perform these experiments. So that's like the highest level conspiracy that you could think about. But top down, that makes sense, right? So again, this is all the framing by which you choose to interpret this information. Now let's go a little bit beyond that and just say the government had nothing to do with it, but somebody somewhere did. And it could be the Illuminati, but not the real Illuminati. Like, they're just the people with money and industry. And they're like, well, we're all experiencing a recession. You know what helps recessions? Is if we spark the economy and get people to purchase shit. And when people purchase shit, they run out of money, which means they got to go work. And so it's this kickstart.
Hold on,
to make people go do that.
I'll just add something in there that you just said that really feeds into conspiracy theory. Did we all know that the Bank of Canada just unexpectedly lowered the bank rate?
Yeah.
Why? So that people can go out and borrow money and fucking air quote recover from this because we. Anyway,
check out the gas prices.
What a fucking shit show.
When did gas all of a sudden just go down? Especially here when it's like...
Well, that's also due to Russia and Saudi Arabia. Listen, there are variables.
There's so many things going on
Yeah.
that we're just not paying attention to. The coronavirus and the sensationalization of it. We're running out of toilet paper because of some fucking meme somebody shared on Facebook. Now all of a sudden it turns into this catastrophe.
Well, same with the grocery stores.
The mentality is now to go raid the fucking grocery store.
Yeah, the grocery stores. Oh, I'm posting pictures of empty shelves. Why? Oh, that's what happens when people fucking shop a lot. That's all that happened. Everybody overshopped. Oh my God, they're not going to close
Black
the
Friday?
Grocery store.
Nobody thinks it's a catastrophe on Black Friday.
Yeah. Anyway,
what an interesting parallel.
Oh yeah,
fucking Black Friday and this shit. Right? Like, actually, Black Friday is the shit.
But Black Friday is the same thing, right? It's the same thing. Hey, guess what? Everything's on sale. You better come down here and get your shit before it runs out. And then everyone goes, oh my God, I need a fucking TV. I got 6 TVs. I need to go get a fucking TV. Like,
I need a TV on top of my TV so I can TV while I TV.
What'd you say? And what's worse is we're all on our fucking phones.
Yeah.
We're not even watching the 6 TVs we have. We're still on our phones.
Oh, dude.
Oh my God, coronavirus.
Yeah. So what is
thank you for that.
What is the consensus here? We kind of went on a bit of a tangent.
We did a little bit.
There are powers that be that are out of your control that is involved inside of what's going on here. And so if that is what's going on, and it's clear that's what's going on because you can see it everywhere. It's a ripple effect through all of these different situations and circumstances, right?
Well, you talked about Trump.
Yeah.
Literally on like Wednesday, let's say, the world was one way. We were dealing with this thing and it was the way it was, and California was the way California was, and New York was the way it was, and Canada was the way it was. Trump does a fucking public address, and the very next day, the world transformed. Crazy shit started to happen immediately. As soon as he said, we're taking this here. This is what's happening. And he started talking about this global pandemic, and that they're fucking getting ready to gear up, and some shit's going down, and everybody freaked out. All that happened is a man got on camera and had a conversation with us. Anyway,
Well,
go
it's
ahead.
not a man that has a camera and has eyes, and
Well,
so
that's what I mean.
there's a ripple effect. I see the opportunity to look inward, and to look in your immediate community, and to see what now you get to do, need to do, is necessary, not because of the global situation, because the global situation will manage whatever it's managing, but our communities, the people that we know, our own businesses and our own lives and our families. And I love the idea, and I think it's absolutely necessary, and I've been feeling it already for a while, and I imagine there's been many people who also believe it, that something had to jar us into starting to look at things differently and to approach life differently. And and it's going to be uncomfortable, isn't it?
That's just it. It's going to be uncomfortable, but
It has
we've
to.
got a choice, man. That's great, dude.
So, yeah, to that point, and I think even to the point that we were having last week, we were talking about, the planet understanding what humans are dealing with.
Yeah, that's another variable that's not in this equation. What the fuck is the planet doing about this? Like,
Perhaps,
Jesus.
so this is one thing this is one theory that I espouse. It's my own theory about this, and that is the planet understands what we're dealing with. And I understand we're at 11:40 in the morning, Mountain Standard Time. Mountain Daylight Time. Anyway, the planet understands what we're doing. It understands what we're dealing with. It understands what human beings have to process, transform, integrate, heal through, shift out of, whatever it is, however it is that you want to phrase that. Could it be possible that no power that be, either above board or below board, created this, other than the planet responding to what human beings are shifting through and providing the most efficacious vector for healing and transformation possible?
No bullshit. Just
Everyone stay calm. Look at how you can help the people that need help. Like co-op stepping up.
everybody's stepping up, and that's the
If you're
beauty
in
of it.
quarantine, this is a responsible business. You know how wealthy the co-op franchise is? And they've stepped up and said at no charge, if you're quarantined for 14 days, you just let us know and we'll take care of you. That's responsible business. So calling upon, this is like my own personal public address, calling upon the corporations that have the power
Hello, March.
and the wealth to do something about this, you need to. You don't have a choice. It's your social
Well, you'd always have a choice.
responsibility to take care of the world. And in that, your brand will benefit, obviously.
Well, you know,
But collectively, that's why you're in the place that you're in. Is because we trusted you. And so we trust you now
So we're
in a state of whatever this is.
so what you said right there is who has the opportunity to step up. Number two, for people in general, think about what can we actually learn from this, right? And to your point about the businesses stepping up and stuff, I said to my daughter the other day, she's just like, she's a little concerned about, because I told her, so I'm not worried about the virus, honey. I'm just worried that we get ourselves prepared so that if we are in the house for a couple of weeks or whatever, we're all going to be looked after. And the other thing to think about is, do you think that there isn't going to be some sort of emergency response or just some type of an organization that's going to go, hey, we're going to throw on a hazmat suit, we're going to go pick up some shit, and you can order stuff from us and we'll drop it off at your house? Or like there's going to be, you don't know how it's going to go. It's not like, oh my God, guess what? You're not smart enough to know how this is going to go.
No, you're not.
There's
You don't have
too
all
many
the variables.
variables
Yeah.
outside of anybody's control that collectively we need to trust each other to do what's right in the situation.
Trust each other, and at the foundation of it all, it is about people. We need each other to get through things like this and to fucking get past things like this, right?
So, that being said, we're going to wrap up this podcast. So, for those of you who have just joined up, we are wrapping up. There's been a really great conversation that we will publish before the end of the weekend. So, coming into the new week, this will be available to listen to, and that's it. So, thank you for weathering the storms that is the world today and Calgary today to be part of this conversation. And I think that's a wrap.
I think that's it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next Saturday, 10:30 Mountain Time. Have yourselves an amazing week. Stay safe out there.
Holy crap, that could have gone so many different ways. Dude, I'm glad to hear that you guys are like, we're all in the, man, I think this is such a good opportunity. Again, not discounting the suffering of what we're having, but yeah, I mean, that's all part of it. Yeah, I mean, people are, unfortunately, like Devin said, people are dying from the regular flu that we've all had and no one can do anything twice about. Yeah, there's so many cases that are out there, but yet this one has a specific name and it's air quote new, so it's like, oh my God, it's a global pandemic. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are global pandemics right now.
Including stupidity.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah. I think something might have been wonky with Podbean because it only recorded 55 minutes or only was live for 55 minutes.
I think there's a 120 minute cap on Podbean.
Either way, it says 55:35, but we do have the full audio on the hard drive, so
Yeah, we can.
you can just replace it.
Yeah, that's all good. All good.
Yeah, it seems like it's missing because the recording is an hour and 8 minutes, and this is 55. So stuff. Technology.
That's fun.
That probably was user error on my part, to be perfectly honest.
Well, that's the lesson you get to learn.
So you stopped.
Everything's stopped.
That's cool. I'm really curious to know how the live stream the video went.
This should be